Good evening to Uganda. It is a good joy that again we can be here on Church of Uganda Family TV. Welcome to this episode of Let's Talk. My name is Emmanuel Odeke. As usual, every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Be sure that you'll see me on your screen discussing serious stuff. So don't touch your remote unless if you're touching it to increase the volume. But I am here together with serious people discussing serious stuff. That will definitely add something to our generation and our time. So with me, I have guests from Wells of Hope, Wells of Hope Ministries. So to discuss the resilience of the incarcerated children. Now that is very hard English for some of us who went to UPE schools. But as we go on, we will definitely break it down so that you understand exactly what we are dealing with. And so to my left is the CEO, who will definitely introduce herself, and they will say something little about the organization. Would you like to introduce yourself, and then we can go ahead?
Okay. Thank you. My name is Ssuubi, and I'm the Executive Director of Wells of Hope Ministries, a Christian not-for-profit organization that supports inmates and their families, and our focus is children with incarcerated parents. We have a head office at Wakaliga in Kampala, and a children's office at Chewando, and formerly incarcerated women's safe home also in Chewando. And then we have two schools, Wells of Hope Junior School and Wells of Hope High School in Semuto, Nakaseke. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That is from the CEO. Normally, you might want to pardon me today that I address you as Ellen. I hope that should be okay. Normally, once in a while in this show, we give people a chance to greet their people in their local language. So maybe you want to do that so that people can get to know your local language out there.
Okay.
That is beautiful. I didn't know she was a Munyoro. So that is beautiful. Thank you, Ellen. To my right, let me ask her to introduce herself, and then we can continue.
Thank you so much. My name is Marjorie.L. I also serve with Wells of Hope Ministries as the Deputy Executive Director, as well as the Programs Officer. Thank you so much for having us here today.
Thank you very much. You do our thing and let our local people understand what you're saying.
Balamusiza nnyo mwenna abatulaba mu linnya lya Mukama waffe Yesu Kristo. Mwebale nnyo okutulaba, mwebale nnyo okutwaniriza ku eno TV.
All right. Thank you very much. So I am safe. The people I have on the studio in the studio are good people. They are good people. So we'll be looking at the incarcerated. Everyone is a potential prisoner. Everyone. You just can't imagine whatever may happen, and you just find yourself in Luzira. Not everyone who goes to Luzira is a prisoner, and not everyone who is in there is a criminal. So you want to be sure that whatever may be, in whatever way, you might find yourself there. So you want to listen to such kind of information so that you know what to do in case, God forbid, you find yourself there, but just in case, you should have good information about this. So, Ellen, you deal with the incarcerated people, children and so on and so forth. What kind of feeling do these children get when their parents are detached? Some of them are so young, others might be at an age of where they can understand. But what kind of feeling do they have? Because it is an obvious case when someone is in prison, definitely they are detached from their parent, from their children. What kind of feeling do they get?
The children, through our intervention and getting to know so much about them now, because we've been in operation for 20 years serving inmates and their families. The children are traumatized by the separation because when a parent is incarcerated, mainly these are breadwinners and these are fathers. Like we have 98% of inmates are male and who are fathers and breadwinners, and the 2% are the women who are mothers or spouses. But taking away a father from this child means a lot for a mother, because these are mainly the breadwinners. The children are traumatized by the separation. They go through a lot. They have questions that they ask themselves. Most of them, some of them are young. They may not notice the difference, so they may be told your father went away or visited or something like that. But as they get older, they get to understand that my father or mother has been incarcerated, and that raises a lot of questions, and they find themselves helpless, and more so because no one notices these children. Even in our communities, they are stigmatized. They go through a lot. They are named the crimes that their parents committed. So they are stigmatized, they are traumatized, and they go through a lot, which is not noticed and recognized by the community and our local leaders on the ground.
Now, just imagine you're going through a lot of trauma, and they're calling you all sorts of names, probably, maybe if your parents did so or they did not do so, and you're getting all these kind of insults in society and in community. Just imagine what would be going through in your mind. Sometimes you feel like the society is no longer a place to live in.
Yeah.
Marjorie, how have these children, I want to believe 20 years in operation is a big time.
Yes.
It's really a big time. You should have had all these things now on your fingertips. How are they dealing with the stigmatization? How are they dealing with this kind of because some of them still find themselves in the same society.
Yeah.
So how are they dealing with that kind of stigmatization, the psychological torture that they go through? What happens? What happens there?
To them, before they join Wells of Hope, most of these children feel angry because when they are sharing stories, like one of our boys was telling us when his father was incarcerated, the crime was committed within his community, and so that his friends, the children, would tell him, "You child of a rapist, your father raped a child." So he felt angry and he ended up being violent. So some of them are violent, some of them are angry, some of them are sad, some of them feel isolated, they feel lonely, they feel like a lot of stress, and some of them are homeless, like they are left as child-headed households. So children end up being adults at an early age. Yeah.
So a child is becoming a parent before they become an adult.
Yeah.
So we have parents who are not parented. We have children who become adults by force.
Yes.
Now just imagine your son or daughter is getting married to one who has grown up with that kind of attitude, with that kind of mentality, that kind of stigmatization, that kind of psychological torture. So what do you think would happen to those kind of things? Like I told you in the start, all of us are potential prisoners. All of us. Sometimes you can just be gazetted and taken without any offense. Or you never know what may happen, but you need to have this kind of information. To you, Ellen, what happens to women who give birth while they are in prison?
The prisons have their programs for the women who deliver in prison. They are looked after well until the child becomes 18 months. That is between 18 months and 2 years. That is when the welfare officers look out for the potential family members who can take on this child. And in case they're not able to find that person, some of the prisons have daycare centers where these children are placed. So that is where now Wells of Hope has come in to, with the consent of the mothers, to get some of these children. And we have a foster care program where these children are placed into families. Yes, but in prisons there are services for when their children are delivered in prison.
Okay.
Until they're 18 to 2 years. 18 months to 2 years.
18 months to 2 years, the child still is in prison.
Yes.
And that may be helpful. That may be helpful because they are still not so understanding yet, so they may not get that kind of torture.
But just to add something, usually research shows that those are formative years of a child. The child is still growing. So the fact that they are born in prison affects their mind, their thinking. You may not see it, but as the child grows, because when you interact with children born in prison, there is a difference with those whose parents went in prison after. Yeah, the way they are thinking, the way they treat themselves, the way they reason is somehow different from the other children who grew up outside prison.
So there is a difference between those who were born in prison and those who went to prison after the children were.
Yes.
This is serious. How about these that are taken to Kampiringi, sir? What do you people do some stuff with them?
No, not with Kampiringi.
Okay. So there is a lot of stuff you need to know about children who are born. Now there is a lot of psychological work that goes on as the child grows. Now between 18 months and 2 years, that's quite a very productive time for a child. So you need to, for those who are planning to go to prison, please don't plan to go at that time. It is interesting. There are people who can just decide to plan and they say, I think after this I will I should find myself maybe in Luzira or so. but you don't need to get there. So a child who is born in prison is not a prisoner. That one is not a prisoner. That one is a child of a prisoner, but they are not prisoners. What apart from looking after them and putting them to foster families, what other activities do you do with them to better their lives? Apart from putting them to foster families and then things like that.
The ones that are placed in foster families are the ones that are quite young, but then the older ones, we bring them to Wells of Hope schools, Wells of Hope Junior School, where we support them through our education, psychosocial, health programs. So they go through a holistic program to ensure that they grow and thrive as the rest of the children grow.
Yeah, but to add on what she has shared, there are several activities that we do. We also facilitate them to go visit their parents in prison. We do talent development. Most of these children are really talented, so we develop their talent. We do the counseling because they go through lots of trauma, so we do counseling, we do games, we do several things, but above all we also have the spiritual enhancement where we talk to them about God, and because it's the healer of everything.
I think that's big, because now if people are not Christian, that is why you find they sometimes get themselves in those kind of things. Foster families, that's also another huge word for some of us who went to UPE schools. I love UPE. I went to UPE school from primary 1 to primary 5. So you'll bear with us who went to UPE schools. So let's talk about foster families, Marjorie?
Yeah, so foster family is temporary care, which goes from 3 months to 3 years, and here a child is not adopted by the family, but they are taken in for a given period of time. For instance, if a child like the children we support, their parents are in prison and they will come back. So we place these children in families, in loving families that will take them on as their own. So with foster care, you give birth to an older child in simple terms. Like you birth a child and then you take care of this child, you like as your own. Usually when we interact with foster parents, we tell them like, treat her as your own. What if this was your own child? What would you do? So these are like second parents to these children who take on the role of fatherhood, motherhood, to parent these children well as your own children.
So is there like an apartment where all these parents live, or you just hunt for people who are willing to have a foster child?
Yeah, so we work with Christian families. We recruit Christian families and they take these children in their homes. And just like someone who is watching us right now, you could be there interested in fostering a child. We take you through the process and you can open your home for this child, to bless this child, to mentor this child, to disciple this child, to love on this child. Because at Wells of Hope, one thing we realized that probably we didn't share at the beginning was that we opened up the Wells of Hope schools in 2010 with the aim of bringing these children to school to study and go back home. But as time went on, we would have children who remain at school and they didn't have anywhere to go. So that's why, and yet at Wells of Hope we would also give these children love, we give them the education, we take them to visit their parents in prison. But one thing was lacking, they lacked a family where they can belong. Like children would be going back home for holidays and these would remain at school. And yet, as Wells of Hope, we are not an orphanage, we are just a school. It is not fit to raise a child from an institution, just like government is against institutionalization because it's not the best place for a child to grow in. So yeah, we started this project where we talk to loving people, Christian people who open up their homes and take in these children. To date, we have 21 children in foster families who are well taken care of.
21 children are in foster families. How about, because now as far as foster is concerned, that means they are with identified families.
Yes.
And what process is there? What process is there to get these children to these identified families?
First, when you have to be a Ugandan who is 21 years and above, if you're married, both you and your husband, both spouses have to agree to foster a child. Then after that, we call you to office for an induction meeting. Then we do some training. Then we visit your place. We do home assessment, and after the home assessment, because the children belong to the government of Uganda, we invite the probation officers to come visit your families to also approve that the family is fit for the child to grow up in. Yeah, so that's the process for foster care. Most people fear it, but it's not a difficult process because we walk the journey with you. All through we are together in this process of foster care.
Have you ever thought and gotten to know that the children you have don't belong to you? Others keep saying, "Umwana wange, this is my child, this is my child." Children don't belong to you, they belong to the government. And to be precise, government of Uganda. Doesn't matter which political party you belong to, the children belong to the government of Uganda. Now let's look at the women. the women, you did mention something about the women.
Yes.
What is happening with those kind of with the women in that docket?
In 2019, Wells of Hope started the Wells of Hope Women Safe Home. Women Safe Home, where we are able to welcome women who have been released from prison and who have, after being released, they have no immediate family, immediate home to go to. So they are welcomed at Wells of Hope. So where we help them, we help them to feel, to have a feeling of being welcomed back, and we have counseling sessions because they've gone through a lot. Some have been in prison for quite a long time, some have been at a shorter time, but still they are affected mentally and in every way. So at the safe home, they step depending on case by case, where if they are not able to get in touch with the family immediately, they go through a program where they're counseled, where they are made to feel are valued despite the fact that they've been in prison. So during that time, if the families, if they're able to get back to their families, then we still support them in that. If not, they are helped, even some have been helped to start businesses. They are able to meet with the rest of the formerly incarcerated. They have a circle, an association, where they are saving, they help to save, and some have even been helped to start up small businesses and be able to have life after incarceration.
Life after prison is not very simple. It's not very, very simple.
More so for the women.
More so for the women. At least men.
Men can come out, go to the park, carry luggage or do things, but women, it's really hard. If you are married, sometimes you find when your husband has already married, you can't go back to the home. Sometimes if you're married here in Uganda, sometimes your parents say bye-bye, so you can't go back home. So really, women go through lots of problems after incarceration.
Now just imagine, I know of a person who was in prison, and when he was released, he said, I wish I would commit another crime. And I am taken back in. Life out here is not simple.
Really
I think they really enjoy the portion in there. So but anyway, that was a way. That was one of my people who was once in some of the prisons.
I think it's not that they enjoy there. It's like how you've mentioned, life after incarceration. Like you need to work, you need to find a place to stay. You need, like for instance, when they come out, like for some parents we've interacted with, when they come out, even your brother or sister who was supporting your children, they want to give back they want to give you your children there and then before you've settled in. So it's a process for them, which people I think fear to go through. Yeah.
So it's just a hard thing to do. It's a hard nut. Because now you have been away. You've been away from that place for a time. Let's say maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Now you're coming out and things have totally changed. The economy has changed. The people you used to know, some of them have left the place.
Yes.
The ones you know are definitely going to slap the stigma onto your face and the psychological torture and it's ugly. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And we want to hope that those of you who have been slapping on this stigma and this psychological torture to these people, please imagine it were you and know that anything can happen and you find yourself there. Supposing it were you, would it be nice? I'm not sure if it would be a nice thing. What activities do you have for women in these safe homes?
So we have counseling. We do counseling. We help them resettle in their communities. Like a social worker will accompany them to their families to to see how they are, how they can integrate back into community. Some of them have spent so much time in prison, and they do not know the process of even acquiring a national ID. So we help them do documentation of maybe a national ID. Some of them are living with HIV and AIDS, and they do not know like a healthy center where they should start from. So we help them with such. And then sometimes we just sit with them and listen to their stories. We help them start up small businesses under FEWA, that's their association, the Association for Formerly Incarcerated Women. We help them start up small businesses. We teach them financial literacy. How do you save? And then also we do monthly meetings where they meet together, and during these meetings they encourage each other. For instance, if a lady came out of prison like today, she'll meet with her fellow ladies who are they call themselves OGs. They'll meet with fellow OGs and share experiences that you go through it. You see, after all, we also went through it. You can also go through it. We know it's not easy, but you can, like, they share experiences and encourage each other to cope with life after incarceration. Yeah.
Now this is serious. I didn't know there are OBs and OGs in So when guys, but every time people meet, just know they have some OBs and some OGs in some kind of way. So those who have OBs, it is okay. It is okay to have OBs. I don't know what kind of OB and OG that would be, but then as long as you've been together, you happen to be old boys and old girls. So what happens when they return? How have you been helpful to reconcile these incarcerated people to their families? Let's look at the women. Let's fix our attention to the women. For men we normally find our level. Men find their level. You don't need to ask them where they are going to start from, but somehow they fit and they sort themselves. But let's look at the women. How have we tried to reconcile them to their families?
Yes, like we have shared, someone being in prison, depending even on the crime that was committed or the way they were arrested, they could be innocent, they could have committed the crime. There is loss of trust in the family, because anyone who has been in prison is termed to be a criminal, did something that of course was against the law. So we help them to reconcile with their families through counseling, we as social workers, we take them to visit the family maybe for the first time. They may not be accepted. So we still bring them back to the safe home until the family gets to accept them. It may take time, depending from case to case, case by case. But some may be accepted immediately and they will come back after counseling the family, but others it may take some time. So these are the ones that we help to start up small businesses so that they can survive. And also there is the issue of the child-mother separation, because also the trust, that relationship has been affected, so it takes some time. Some of the women come out with their children if they were maybe breastfeeding or they are not yet reached that 18 months. So we keep these mothers with their children. And some, like I've shared, they've not been able to go back to the family. We still keep them with their child, care for the child until they're able to settle into community.
So it is just a tricky bit that we just need to embrace these guys back to family, because they don't belong to the prison. Before they went to the prison, they belonged to a family. So if they belong to the family, it is very important that we welcome them back. It might be a hard thing, but we need to do the hard stuff. We need to do the hard stuff and welcome them back to the family, because that is where they belong. And sometimes if we throw them away, we are pushing them either back, or they are going to become more dangerous people to society, to the surrounding and stuff like that. So when we return from the break, we'll be looking at reconciling to the community fully, so that they become members fully of a particular community, and they are staying the way they used to be, in spite of all the stigma and the psychological torture that they've been going through. It is the first time I'm hosting two ladies on this show. I've always had women, men fully. So it is just a cool one today. I'm enjoying the company of two ladies, and then I think I should consider having more. I think I should consider having more ladies come to the show. Well, we are still looking at the resilience of the incarcerated children who have parents who have been to prisons. You know of the different prisons we have in Uganda and outside Uganda. But what happens to the children of those who are in prison is a question that has remained answered by a few, but unanswered by many. And so we're trying to see, where could the answer be? Perhaps Wells of Hope is giving an answer. We don't know. They will tell us if their answer is very helpful and long-lasting, but they're here to tell us what they are doing. So now, to start, to pick it up from there, what is the fate of the women who return from prison?
Sorry, some of these women, when they return from prison and go back to their communities, some are accepted within their families and some are not. So it really varies from lady to lady. To those that are accepted, the families usually are supportive. They help them start up a business. They really help them. But to those that have been rejected, it's also another story. So it's case by case for the women who come out of prison. But as Wells of Hope, we start this process even before the woman comes out of prison, because the integration starts before, when she's in prison. So you start talking about life after prison. How will life be like? Where will you go? What are your thoughts? Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? So really we start the journey before she even comes out. So we draw a service plan as she comes. Before she comes out, we already know where we are heading with the lady.
I think that's very helpful, that it starts when they are still in prison, so that by the time they are getting out from there, they know where to go, they know what next, and they know what to do. Because if you don't know where to go after prison, and you go to a family and you're rejected, where next? You find it a very hard thing to do, a very hard nut to crack. And yet life has to move on. Life has to move on.
Yeah, so they are prepared for anything, like whether good or bad, they are prepared to accept life.
So there is that preparation before.
Yes.
Are you well introduced and known to these prison places?
Yes.
So when you go there, they welcome you with open hands.
Yes, we really thank Uganda Prisons for the support you always render to us. Whenever we ask for permission to enter prison, we are always granted the permission. So really, we appreciate Uganda Prisons, because we couldn't do this work without the support of Uganda Prisons.
How do you know that somebody is about to leave prison?
Because we have committees in prison of ladies that we work with. We also work with welfare officers in prison, so we get to know there is a head of the women, and she always tells us that we have these ladies coming out, for instance, in December, in November. So there is a list of ladies. I think the interactions we have in prison with them.
So Uganda Prisons, you have a thumb up from Wells of Hope.
Yes.
you have a thumb up from Wells of Hope.
Yes.
Mama Ellen, you're saying something about
Yes, about the formerly incarcerated. We would also request families that these women have gone through rehabilitation. Most of them have been transformed because of what they went through. So the family, we call upon the family to accept these women and love them and show them the love that they can, so that when they find this love, chances are high that they will not look at going back to what they did before or what happened in their lives, if at all they were in conflict with the law. So the family should embrace these women and love them despite whatever they have gone through, because we have seen this as we work with them.
That's I think very, very, very helpful. When they are in these prisons, sometimes some people call those universities of understanding. So they endeavor to put some sense into some of these people while they are in there. So when they return, please embrace these people. Some of them found themselves there not because they were really criminals, but because circumstances around them pushed them into these places. So please, when they return, like the executive director just said, please welcome them with open hands and see how to fit them to society, see how to fit them into the community, because they need to be part of community, and life has to move on after prison. Life has to move on. How do you enroll these people to become members of Wells of Hope, more so the children? How do you, what process, what procedure? Does somebody have to look for your offices, or you cite out? What happens to get these children to Wells of Hope?
We work with Uganda Prison Service. The Deputy Executive Director has really appreciated Uganda Prison Service for the trust. Over the 20 years, we have been working together, and Uganda Prison Service has trusted us, and we work together with the welfare officers at the different prisons. We have inmate committee that is comprised. They have their committee where every religion is represented on that committee. So as Wells of Hope, we have our criteria. We give them our forms that they fill in, and they themselves, the committee, chooses the most vulnerable families amongst themselves, and they write the information of that family on that form. So we pick the forms at a specific time, where we go family tracing into the communities where they left behind their families. So in fact, Wells of Hope, we work with a triangle intervention model, where our entry point is the inmate. So through that, the committee, the inmate introduces us to their families in the communities, where we go with these forms and trace for the family through the directions that they have given us. That's where in the community we find the family and we find the children. We do an assessment to see however much they have given us their directions, we will still do an assessment. So we get the most vulnerable families, the children, we assess the children, and then the children are brought to Wells of Hope are oriented into the program of Wells of Hope Ministries.
So it is not for all. It is not for all. It is for the most vulnerable. So if you're a parent, you may be a brother, a cousin, you're a relative, and you can still look after your child. Look after a child of a brother who has been to Luzira prisons or whichever prison. Please look after the child. You don't need to look for Wells of Hope. You really don't need to. You rather have to give a support, a helping hand. So, like you've heard, it is a triangular way, and the entry point should come from the prison, from the inmate. So the inmate, like I said earlier, all of us are potential entrants. All of us are potential. Anytime you can find yourself there. So if you get yourself there and you really see you are vulnerable, and the people you left back are more vulnerable than you are, then please fill that form. And who knows, somehow, somewhere, Wells of Hope could throw a helping hand.
Yeah, but to add also is during COVID has really taught us so many new things with COVID, and so we started working with also police, because some children go to police with their parents, and also at police there are those cases, you know, that kind of crime the person has committed that lets you know that this is going to be a long-term sentence. So we also work with police, to recruit children.
So the
To add on to that, the inmates that we support are those serving long sentences on life imprisonment and on death row, and also living with HIV and AIDS. That's the category.
Now you need to repeat that clearly so that we get it very well. Long sentences?
Long-term sentences.
That is how many
10
years?
years and above.
10 years?
And above. Those on life sentence, and then those on death row, and those living with HIV and AIDS.
So there are 4 categories. The first one is a long sentence.
Yes.
You have more than 10 years in prison, and then you have a life sentence. So your entire life is going to be in the prison.
Yeah.
And then you have already been sentenced for death. And then those with HIV/AIDS. Is it only women with HIV/AIDS or even men?
No, both men.
Both, even men.
Yeah.
All right. So those are the major 4 categories that Wells of Hope, and I think this is very, very, these 4 categories help they are really the most vulnerable, because 10 years away from your home is really long. Life sentence is just away from your death row. I think this is a right and correct thing to do. Now, how are these children? What do these children go through while the parents are in prison?
So children with parents in prison go through lots of challenges. First is the separation. They are being separated from their parents. Some of them, their fathers, because 98% of people in prison are men, and these are the breadwinners of the family. So when they go to prison, the child loses a breadwinner, loses a parental figure, and so that separation really affects them. Then most children drop out of school because their parent, as I've mentioned earlier, was the breadwinner. He's no longer there, so they drop out of school. Then there are child marriages of these children. Then some children have gotten HIV and AIDS as a result of having a parent in prison. They also go through a lot of trauma because of having a parent in prison, stigma, discrimination. Most children are discriminated because of the kind of crime the parent has committed. Then they also go through, they lose esteem, because in a community where your father raped a child, most people will name you child of a rapist, child of a murderer. So it affects a child's esteem. And there are several issues that these children go through. Some of these children, like I earlier mentioned, they become adults, child-headed households. Of late, we are finding so many child-headed households because the parent has gone in prison, and then the mother or father has died, so the child remains by themselves. Then, Then there is also the issue of mental health. Most of these children end up having mental illness that affects them, and this is all as a result of stress. Yeah.
So that is how serious it can be. There are physical tortures, there are psychological tortures. There is just a lot that we need to be aware of, that we need to keep our eyes on, and You just need to make sure you do the right thing. Be helpful to these people. Be helpful to, you don't need to be a Christian to help these people. You just need to be a human being who knows anything can happen at any time, and anyone can find themselves in the cells, and before you notice. Now just imagine, the other day I was moving along Kampala, this next to the park, and some guys were just, because they were selling stuff on the street, they were put into those trucks of police, and before you would notice, there are express sittings for those guys. You find yourself in Luzira for just selling stuff by the roadside, and he's trying to win something to eat, to put something to eat on the table. I'm not saying what they're doing is right, but anything can happen. Anything can happen, and you find yourself there. Be helpful to these people, and you should be good to go. Now, we have about 2 minutes left here. We have about 2 minutes left. Ellen, would you like to make your last remarks? And now, if you need to get to these people, they will tell you their social media places, and then they will be. You can follow them up, and then they should be able to give you a listening ear.
I would like to call upon us to come and support us as Wells of Hope Ministries. What motivates us is that scripture, Matthew 25:36. I was in prison and you came unto me. So whatever you do for the inmates, you're doing it unto Jesus. So we call upon you to come and support us. Be a parent, a foster parent, like we have shared. It will be a blessing. You may be with this child for, it could be depending, it could be a 1 year, and you share your love as a family to this child, and we cannot know what blessings that will be. Then we are also constructing our Wells of Hope High School. We call upon us to come and build this school for the children. We can't know who we are supporting. It could be the next president of Uganda. Come and reconstruct this the high school in Semuto. We still need about 260 million Uganda shillings we have started on the classroom block. Boys dormitory and the girls dormitory is yet to come. So please come and support us. You can also sponsor a child at Wells of Hope. With $45 per month, you can support a child at the primary school, $60 per month at the secondary school, and $80 for those in tertiary institutions. As we celebrate 20 years, we have graduates, we have a girl who graduated, we have those who have graduated in vocational skills. So we are impacting these children so that they can be change agents in their communities and also become responsible citizens in our nation of Uganda.
Thank you very much. I see my time is out. My time is really out. Thank you so much, Eve and Marjorie, for making time to come to Church of Uganda Family TV, where we enrich lives. In case you need to get to them, their social media, Facebook is at Wells of Hope, Twitter is at Wells of Hope, and then Instagram at Wells of Hope Ministries. Then there you can catch up with them and be of support to a prisoner. You never know what may happen. God bless you. God bless Uganda. Next is Issues at Hand.